Here with us exclusively tonight, House Intel Chairman Devin Nunes. Mr. Chairman, thank you for being here. What does it tell you about their so-called respect for the rule of law? They didn't give him any indication that this was any serious interview. They said, in fact, don't bring your lawyer, because if you do that, we're going to have to involve the Justice Department. And apparently they were like good friends in this interview. And what happened?
What's happened here to General Flynn is just, it's a tragedy. I've known General Flynn since the mid-2000s, visited him numerous times in Iraq. He is an American war hero. You have heard me say this ad nauseum over and over again about the most important crime that was committed here was the leak of highly sensitive, compartmented information of General Flynn talking to the Russian ambassador.
To David Ignatius at the Washington Post, correct?
Yeah. Which he had, yes, and then later again it showed up in the Washington Post. I think even more information. That was a leak of a phone call of an American citizen that he had every right to make. It wasn't just that he was the national security advisor. Any American has the ability to talk to any ambassador that they want, and they used a law from the 1700s, the Logan Act, that had never been used.
But this was all a pretext. So people watching tonight understand. It looks like a setup. It looks like this is all pretextual. They knew what they had the transcript in their hands. The agent said so. They had the transcripts, and they were ready. If Flynn said he didn't remember, they were going to read part of the transcript to him. But then he's in there without a lawyer, thinking that these are his buddies, and there's no problem. Of course I'll talk to them. I have nothing to hide. That's what, presumably that's what he's saying.
Well, and I don't want to jump ahead, because I'm sure you're going to talk about this, but the 302s. So these are
the 302s are the memos
reports
that they write after an interview with individuals of interest.
But they were not finalized for 7 months.
So they were not finalized until August of 2017.
Yes.
Why would that be? Wouldn't you go right back to the office and start working on them?
I don't know why that would have been, but I also know that we were briefed on those interviews on the House Intelligence Committee a month or two after those interviews occurred. So you have memos that would have been written during the interview, and then you have a briefing before the House Intelligence Committee, probably the Senate, and then you move onward, and then it's not finalized until August 22nd. So I'm glad that the judge is looking at this. I think the judge should also ask the House Intelligence Committee to provide the transcript that we have of Director Comey testifying before our committee.
Yeah, well, the judge,
he'd be interested in that also.
So the judge is seeking tonight, we learned, you're referencing, seeking to review key FBI notes before it makes its sentencing decision that are involving all this. Judge Emmett.
Right, he wants the notes beforehand and the 302s.
That will reveal a lot about what they actually thought and knew beforehand, right after they left, which was apparently that they didn't think he lied, correct?
That's correct.
So Peter Strzok,
that's our take of it, yes.
Peter Strzok did not think that Michael Flynn lied.
That's what I believe, at least from what the testimony that we received over many, many months, was that there was no lying had occurred. That's why I was shocked.
He wants two documents: a memo that then FBI Director Andrew McCabe wrote after speaking with Flynn, but ahead of the interview he did with the two agents during that same interview. So that's the FD 302. That McCabe part,
which is the finalization, the memorialization of the original interview. And I still don't understand how it took 7 months. And remember, Senator Grassley has been all over this for a year, asking for these 302s.
Sullivan also ordered the special counsel to hand over any memos or interview notes relevant to Flynn's interview. So this all goes to your point. This was a complete setup from the beginning against Flynn. It looks obvious to me. It's obvious to anyone who has bothered to follow this for 1 minute. Another thing that's obvious is how many politically motivated actors have populated the Mueller investigation. Not all, but I want everyone to remember who Jeannie Rhee is, just because of today, because she was speaking at the Cohen sentencing. He was sentenced today, got 3 years, Southern District of New York. And for people who don't know who she is, I want to remind you, she worked for the Clinton Foundation, right? She repped also Obama Deputy National Security Advisor Ben Rhodes during the House Select Committee on Benghazi. You know, she repped, Ben Rhodes during all of that, and then she repped the Clinton Foundation in 2015. So she worked for Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State. I mean, this is not someone who should be in the special counsel's investigation. And she also gave $5,400 too.
Yeah, I have no idea why Mueller picked anyone.
Connected with Hillary in the email investigation, and clearly it's
Clinton
crazy.
support. It's totally nuts. And if the shoe was on the other foot, the mainstream media would be going crazy. The Mueller investigation would have been shut down. It would have been called a fraud and a hoax from the beginning.
3 years? What does that tell you? Anything?
Well, I'm watching just to see how the media is making this out to be like that Trump did something wrong, when the reality is he's going to prison for tax evasion.
Yeah,
and so and I think if you look at what the Fed said, is the Fed said, look, this guy did a lot of bad things, where you have the special counsel's office saying the opposite.
Rep. Denny Heck on your committee says this is the beginning of the end of the Trump presidency. That's what he said.
Well, we've heard a lot of that kind of talk over the last 2 years, and if
Are people getting nervous though up on Capitol Hill? Any Republicans getting nervous about any of this?
No, not that I know of. I think we're getting frustrated that we continue to speak truth to power. We continue to get facts out there. And you have the mainstream media who has been involved in this from the very beginning. They were the very first ones to get the Steele dossier that really originated this entire show.
Devin Nunes, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Laura.